This is numbers 13 through 16 on the Unit 1B Quiz Study Guide. Alright, so 13 through 16 we're using the quadratic formula. Just as a reminder, you are going to have that x is going to equal negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Make sure you memorize that for the quiz. Sing that little song, look it up on YouTube if you need to. So now on 13, we want to start by identifying what a, b, and c are. A, in this case, is the number in front of x squared, which is 1. When you can't see it, it's a 1. B is the number in front of the x, so that would be 4. And c is the constant here at the end, so negative 2. So now let's plug it in. We've got negative the value of b, so negative 4, plus or minus the square root of my b squared, so we're going to take 4 and we're going to square it, minus 4 times the a, which is 1, times the c, which is negative 2. All of that over 2 times the value of a, which we said is 1. Just plugging it into this formula. Now when we clean up, the first two things we want to clean up are the discriminant and the denominator. So here we go, negative 4 plus or minus the square root of, let's go ahead and throw the discriminant in our calculator. So we have 4 squared minus 4 times 1, which is the same number, times negative 2. So that gives me 24 on the inside. All of that over 2 times 1, which is 2. So now we want to clean this up a little bit more, and I'm going to go ahead and simplify the square root of 24. So it's negative 4 plus or minus the square root of, remember we want to do the prime factorization of 24. Your calculator will do that, so if you do second square root and you put 24, it'll give it to you, which is 2 squared is 6. But if you didn't know that, the prime factorization would be 2 times 2 times 6. 2 times 2 is 4 times 6 is 24. That's, you can make from a factor tree doing it from 24. That's a twin. It would come out. All that's still over 2. So then that right there is going to equal negative 4 plus or minus, that pulls a 2 out, square root of 6, all of that over 2. And now we break this off. It's got to be negative 4 over 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 6 over 2, and both of those can be simplified. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2, plus or minus, here the 2's would cancel, leaving me with just square root of 6. This would be my answer to number 13. Number 14. Again, you want to make sure that this is, you first find your a, b, and c. So we've got a is equal to 1, b is equal to 4, and c is equal to negative 1 in this particular problem. And so now we're going to plug it in. So we've got that x is equal to negative the value of b plus or minus the square root of my b squared minus 4 times that a times the c, all of that over 2 times the a. Clean that up. We're going to have negative 4 plus or minus. Remember, we want to start with the discriminant, so throw that in your calculator. We got 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 1, which would be, oops, I messed that up, 4 squared minus 4 times that 1 times the negative 1 would be 20. All of that over 2 times 1, which is 2. Clean it up. Negative 4 plus or minus, think of the prime factorization of 20. That's 2 times 10, which would be 2 times 10. 10 can be broken down to 2 and 5. So that's your prime factorization, which can be found with the factor tree. We see a pair of twins, they can come out. So now we've got negative 4 plus or minus 2 square root of 5, all that divided by 2. Now we're ready to break that off. So it's negative 4 over 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 5 over 2. Clean this up. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2, plus or minus, these 2's would cancel, square root of 5. All right, let's do number 15. Number 15, notice that we are not set equal to 0. Everything has to be moved to the left for this to work. It has to equal 0. So the first thing we actually do is add 2 to both sides. That gives me 6x squared minus 3x plus 2 equals 0. Now I'm ready to identify my a, which is 6, my b, which is negative 3, and my c, which is 2. And now we plug it in. Negative the value of b. Now, if it's negative the value of b, that's negative the value of negative 3, which is actually a positive 3, plus or minus my b squared, make sure you put b in parentheses, minus 4 times a times c. all of that over 2 times my a. Clean it up. Remember, we start with the discriminant. 3 plus or minus the square root of. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9, minus 4 times 6 times 2. And that is going to give us negative 39 on the inside. All of that over 12. Now, when we do this, that negative, remember, can't be inside there. So we have 3 plus or minus. To get rid of the negative, to take the square root of a negative, it makes an I on the outside. And 39 is actually 3 times 13. It doesn't have any twins, so we can't even simplify the square root of 39. So all we could do is pull the negative out of the radical, which pulls out an I. Equals, split this off, 3 over 2 plus or minus I squared of 39 over 2. So both of these pieces get split over the 2, and nothing can be simplified, so that is our final answer. All right, and then finally on number 16, you want to, again, move everything to the left. It's got to equal 0. So we're going to subtract 4x from both sides, and we're going to add 1 to both sides. So that gives me 2x squared, and then 2x minus 4x is negative 2x, and then I still had that plus 1 that I also added to both sides, equals 0. Now my a is 2, my b is negative 2, and my c is 1. Let's plug it in to the quadratic formula. Negative the value of b, so negative the negative 2, which makes it a positive 2, plus or minus the square root of the b squared, don't forget to throw it in parentheses, minus 4 times a times c, all of that over 2 times that a. Let's clean it up. 2 plus or minus the square root of, that gives me 4 on the inside. I don't know why I did that, sorry. Let's go ahead and just do 4 minus 4 times 2 times 1, which would be negative 4. So it's actually negative 4 on the inside. All of that over 2 times 2, which is 4. So again, this would just clean up to be negative 4. So now we are going to clean it up some more. 2 plus or minus. Now the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of that negative number, remember, is an I. So nothing's left on the inside anymore. So the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of the negative is an I. But that's all still over that 4. So we split it up now. So that is 2 over 4 plus or minus 2i over 4. Clean that up. 2/4 simplifies to 1/2, plus or minus that 2/4 simplifies to 1/2, and 1 times I is just regular I over 2. So that would be your final answer.